Hello everyone. Today in this video I'm going to be writing a bit of Clojurescript. I want this to be a very gentle introduction to the Clojure and the Cljs ecosystem. I will try my best so that you can follow along even if you do not have any prior understanding of Clojure. So my main goal is to get you this visual feel of what it is like to write something in Clojure. I want to do this because I've had this experience where everything felt so strange to me. The Clojure syntax, the Lispy syntax, and I couldn't make sense of it for a very long time. So hopefully this is the guide which I wanted to see when I was starting with Clojure. So hopefully I can unravel a little bit of this alien language into something you'll soon fall in love with by building a very quick and simple to do application. I am going to use Shadow Cljs. It's a library which makes Clojurescript compilation easy. We are also going to use a React interface for Clojurescript, which is called as Reagent. And we are going to set up our project using a template which is already provided by Reagent. So I don't want you to fall into this trap of getting overwhelmed by the tooling. I'll soon be making videos about tooling as well. But let's just start coding. Let's see where we can go with it. So hopefully I want to explain this in a way that even if you do not know anything about Clojure, you can still at least follow along and get that visual feel I was talking about. Okay, so let's start by creating a new project. So for creating a new project, we are going to use Lenigan, and we are going to create a Reagent front-end template, which I showed you on here. So we are going to name it something like simple to do, and we are going to use Shadow Cljs option. So let's do that. Perfect. So let's go into this simple to do application. Okay, as you can see, there's a code.cljs file which is already created for us. There's an index.html file. This is very similar to how create React app sets up the project directory structure. So first of all, let's go and do an npm install. And while this is happening, let's also check out what is in the code.cl file, code.cljs file. Okay, one sec. Yeah. Okay, so this is the file which the template generated for us. As you can see, there's an export function here which mounts the root, very similar to how React does it. There's a render function which gets the app element ID and bounds our home page component to it. This is a component. This is the top level component of our application, which is the home page, and it simply prints a welcome to Reagent. So let's try to run this app now. So we have to do npx shadow cljs, and we're going to watch our app namespace. Let's close these tabs. So this should show up on localhost 3000 as soon as the building is complete. The first time takes a bit longer. After that, it is going to be pretty smooth, as you'll see in a bit. Okay, so the build has been completed. Let's refresh our page now, and as you can see, there's a welcome to Reagent showing up here, which is getting rendered from this component. So let's open our public index.html file and see the structure. As I said, it's very similar to create React app if you have ever used it. Let's just add a simple CSS framework. This is a Sakura framework. You can check it out. It's a classless CSS framework which applies CSS styles without having to use classes. I'm just going to add it here. And it's applied. Perfect. Okay, so let's just start with building out a simple list of items which we can see without any fuss, right? We just need to see a few items. So let's create a list and let's add some items to it. So let's write boil the pasta, and we can do grind basil, fry the garlic. And as you can see, as soon as I save it, I can see these list items over here. Let's try to add some colors to it. So as you can see, this is a hiccup like syntax. If you don't know about it, this is a very easy way to write your HTML components. It's an alternative to JSX in React. What this does is it uses simple vectors in Clojure and renders them as functions. So these can be written as functions using the round brackets, but the square brackets are used so that Reagent understands when to re-render the components. So don't go deep into it. Let's just stick with the basics. Let's try to make something out of it, which is more exciting. So let's add some color to this. Okay. So we are going to give it an attribute of a style and color with red, let's say. Okay, I got this as red. So let's copy this to make it green. Okay, so we've got green, we've got red, and we've got nothing. Okay, so let's move on to the next bit. Let's add a p tag, right? Let's just indent this properly. Let's add one more tag. Let's add a paragraph tag. Add a new item below. Okay, so what we want to do is we want an input box, and we want to be able to not have these hard coded. Okay, so let's start with not having these hard coded. Let's first of all, let's take this out into a different component, a different React component. As we say, it can be a simple function. It does not have to be a full-blown class component in React. Everything is a function Clojure. So let's make it to do item, and let it take a description string, and we can print the same thing and just return this li, and let's delete this for the time being, and let's render the to do item. Try the garlic. Let's see if this works. Okay, this is working. Perfect. Let's add one more. Let's add boil the pasta. Perfect. Now what we can do is instead of passing a simple string, let's pass a map. Let's pass data, as Clojure likes to say it. So we'll give it a key value of a description, and the value is fry the garlic, and we will also give it a color key, and we will mention it as green. And let's do the same thing here. Let's give it a description of boil the pasta, and let's give it a color value of red. Okay, so let's come in here and take the to do object. So this map, we can see that is the to do object. Let's take it and print the description from this to do. So this is like doing a to do dot description. It's getting the key description from the to do map. So perfect, this is working. Let's try to add the colors now, as we did before. Let's add a style with color of color to do. Perfect. What we can do now is let's add let's even remove this hard coded, right? We want this to be present in a list. We want these to do items to be present in a list, and let's fetch it from that list. So let's create a simple data structure. So we can just create to dos, and we can delete this, and we can bring it here. Perfect. So once we've got the to dos, let's loop over this, right? Let's loop over this. So we are just using a simple for loop. So it's going to be for to do and to dos. So it's going to assign every single element from this to dos list into to do, and we will simply call the to do item on each of the to dos. We do something like this, and bam, that is also working. Okay, so this is our state, right? So Reagent provides a way to get atomic state. So we are going to use something very similar to Clojure atoms, which is called Reagent atoms. So let's, instead of defining it simply as a vector, let's define it as a atom. So I'm going to do r/atom, and that's it. And this should also work. Okay, so we access atoms by the at symbol. So now this is working. So this is our synchronized state. Whenever this atom changes, because this is the reagent atom, reagent will know whenever this changes, it's going to re-render the components. So this is how reagent understands when the items need to be re-rendered. Okay, so we've come pretty far. We've got something simple working. Okay, there's something wrong. Disk ball. Okay, so there's an indentation error here. Let me fix that. Yeah, so this seems to be working. So let's go ahead and figure something more out. So what we need to do is we need to add an input form. So let's create a component called as to do form, and what it's going to do is going to create a simple form. The form is going to have some attributes, and the form is going to have two inputs. So let's start with a single input of text. It's going to have input type of text, and let's give it a placeholder of add a new item. Let's see how this looks. Okay, we'll add the to do form into the homepage component. Let's add it here. Bam. So we can write something here. It's not going to submit right now, so we'll have to write some logic to be able to add to the atoms, add to the to-do list state. So let's give the form on submit handler. So we are going to on submit, and it's going to run a function. So let's write an anonymous function here, and let's do a prevent default on E, and okay, so when this happens, right, we need to when somebody submits the form, so maybe when somebody presses enter, we need to be able to get the data which they've written inside this input element. So we need to store this somewhere. So what we are going to do is we are going to create another local atom to this specific component. So we are going to create a new item, and we are going to create it as an atom with the initial value of an empty string. And we are going to scope it like this. So once that is done, let's give this the value of the atom, and let's give it an on change. So as you might be knowing, in React we use the on change function to handle whatever changes are made to the input. So we are going to do exactly the same thing. We are going to do an on change. We are going to write an anonymous function here, which is going to change the value of this new item atom. What it's going to do is we cannot directly change atoms, so we have to use a function called as reset to change the value of the atom. It's going to reset it to reset the new item to the value of the input attribute. So that is going to be given by target and dot value. So what this is doing, this is a threading function, threading macro. So what this basically does is it's going to call something similar to this. I'm going to write the expanded version right now. So it's going to call the value attribute is going to get the value attribute of the target attribute of the event of the data which is passed. So instead of writing this as a short form, I'm going to expand this as well so that it's clearer to understand. We are going to write an anonymous function fn of e, and instead of the percentage is going to take the event. So this is a simple JavaScript, and something seems to be wrong, which is unresolved. Okay, sorry, it's dot slash dot dash value. So what Clojure does is Clojure has a convention of writing dot and the name. So if I do dot get document get element by id, so it's going to call the function, so that's a method. And when we do a dot dash, it is going to access the attribute of the particular object. So here e is the event object, and we are first accessing the target value attribute, and then we are accessing the value attribute, and we are passing that into the new item. So every time we write something here, the new item is going to get updated. So let's fix it. Okay, so one more thing here we need to do is we don't want the new item to reset to an empty string on every re-render of the to do form component. So what we are going to do is we are going to return a function which returns this. So our new item gets scoped and it gets initialized, and we don't have to and it does not get reset every time the component updates. So now if we can write something over here, so if we write boil the pasta, grind the basil, so as you can see it's maintaining that state in the new item object, new item atom. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to submit the form, right? So we need to add when we press enter, we need to add this value into the to-dos atom, the list, the vector of to-dos items. So we are going to do this over here. When it's an on submit, we are going to use something called a swap. What this does is it modifies the atom, it creates a new atom and then replaces the existing atom atomically. So that is what we are going to do. We are going to swap the to-dos. We are going to apply a function called conj, which adds to the vector, and we are going to add something which are color green, and we are going to add it with the description of the new item. So once we are done this, let's check it out here. We are going to type grind the basil, press enter, and as you can see, we've added another item in the to-do list. Let's try to add something else, which is add onions. Okay, so as we notice here, right, this is not getting reset. This when we press empty, this should empty out, like this should empty out automatically as soon as we press enter. So let's do that. So let's put the logic over here. So when we press enter, we want to reset this atom of new item back to an empty string. So hopefully this will work. Yep, it's working. Perfect. Okay, what we can now do is we can okay, so let's do one thing. To keep this simple, I'm going to add a checkbox over here. This checkbox will let us choose if the item has been completed or not. So let's just refactor this a little bit. Let's not use colors. Let's use something that has completed. Let's give it a value of true, and let's give this a value of false, and completed true. Okay, so we have to change the way we are getting the colors over here. So let's write a very simple function. If our value of color, so if the value of completed if completed to do, so if this is true, we want the green color, and if it is false, we want the red color. Perfect. So as you can see, there's nothing changed here, which means our changes to the code have worked. So now we can add a checkbox into this form. Let's add a new input button over here. Input, let's give it a type of checkbox, and okay, so we'll have to create another atom for this, which holds the state of whether the box has been checked or not. So new item completed, and give it an R atom of false. So it takes the new item completed, and on the change value, it's going to again call the reset function. It's going to reset the new item completed, and is going to give it a value of target and checked. So event.target.checked is what we use in JavaScript to get if the checkbox has been clicked or not. So that is what it's going to do, and it's going to set it to the new item completed value. And as again, we will reset this value over here, new item completed, and we will reset to a default of false. Perfect. So we've got this checkbox here. So let's try add an item, which is item 1, and this is green. And if we check it, what's happening? Item 2, it is still green. Okay, so yeah, so we've always kept completed true, so we have to give this the new value, new item completed. Okay, it should work now. So yep, and item 2, if we check this, yep, it's green. So this is a very simple to-do application. I think we are done pretty much here now. What we can do is we can refactor this a little bit more. Let's take out this list over here and create a to-do list component. So we can have something like to-do list and print this here, and to-do list. Perfect. And what we can do is, okay, everything else seems pretty good. So that is it. That is the code. I'm going to upload this code in a Git repository and link it in the description below. If there's something else you want to understand more clearly, please let me know. And I'm going to be making a few more videos taking this to the next level, maybe creating more complex applications than this. This is a very basic application which I've shown just to get you to understand that it is not very complex. It might look a bit alien right now, but as you do it, this becomes very fast. It becomes very easy to understand. The immutability helps a lot in Clojure. It's much easier to get a hang of it. There are some safe checks and guarantees for you present by the language itself. I have faced lots and lots of issues with React, having my hooks re-rendered, and having random performance issues just because immutability was not a given. Things were changing where I didn't expect them to change. So hopefully you learned something out of this. Thank you.